annotate the class with this annotation called as configuration, we will be creating beans using the @ Hello and welcome. Let's go to the IDE. I will be using IntelliJ IDEA. Let it start up. We will create a new Maven project, give it some name. I'll call it as Spring Bean, and make sure the language is Java and build system is Maven. You can choose appropriate JDK, then click on create. We have a POM file to begin with. So now let's start with adding the dependencies required for Spring. Let's head back to the browser. Search for Spring Framework Maven. This is the link that we may want to open. Here we have a couple of options, but our interest is a Spring context. Reason is that all we want is to demonstrate that how can we create a bean and access the same from the context. So this is sufficient for our use case. So we will click on that and go inside. Let's choose the latest one and let's copy the dependency. Now come back to the IDE, paste it here. You should be good to go. In some cases, you may see some error message here. Just come to Maven and refresh this one. So it should be able to download the dependency and you should be good to go. Now let's create a couple of packages. Create a package. We will have a beans package. We will have a configuration package and then a package called as runner. So idea is the bean will contain all the posos that we want to be tagged as a bean by the Spring Framework, and configuration will contain the configuration classes, and runner is where we will be writing the code to test whatever we have implemented. So let's start by creating a pojo inside the bean and call it as laptop. The laptop will have a private field, maybe call it as a brand, and then create the getters and setters for the brand. Now go inside the configuration and here we will be creating the configuration using which we will be creating the bean. Call it as laptop configuration. So first thing to do is to annotate the class with this annotation called as configuration. This is from the package context annotation configuration. So what happens is whenever you start the program, Spring will look for all the classes which are tagged as configuration. So the idea behind the configuration annotation is that it is a guideline to the Spring Framework to consider this class in somewhat special manner. And when the Spring Framework starts looking inside this class, it would search for certain definition or certain configuration with respect to creating a bean. So in this particular case, we will be creating beans using the @bean annotation. So let's create a few beans here. So first of all, I will have the return type of a type laptop. Call it as a laptop. So essentially it's a method to begin with. And what do we do is we create a handle for the laptop object and set the brand name, maybe call it as Apple, and then return the laptop. In order to convert this thing to a bean, we can just annotate this with this particular annotation. So what happens is Spring Framework comes here, it sees that it's a configuration class, it goes inside and it finds out that alright, I have a bean configuration. Why? Because it has been annotated with a bean annotation. So it goes inside this particular method and it sees that a laptop object is being created and some property is getting set, and after that it's getting returned this particular object. And when we are annotating this with that bean configuration, then a Spring Framework gets the idea that it needs to create a bean out of it. This object will be created and stored as an application context. Likewise, let's create a few more. So let's have a string as the return type. The method name could be hello and I could return just a hello string. And this is my another bean. Another could be integer and let's return 2024. So you see the idea. Basically all we are doing is we are creating certain objects and returning it after annotating with bean annotation. So let's get moving. We go to the runner package and we create this thing called as laptop demo. In order to demonstrate, let's have a main method, and in the main method, first of all, I will create a normal object out of the laptop pojo. Let's set the brand, maybe call it as Dell, And let's print some information about this object. Paste from non-spring context and laptop.getBrand. Here comes the fun part. So remember in the previous video I told you that we have two types of bean containers. One is bean factory, another is application context. And till now what we have done is that we went to the configuration, we told the Spring Framework that hey, you find this configuration, and after that you create these 3 beans. So whenever we start the application, the framework will go and create 3 beans and keep it inside this application context, which is essentially its bean container. And now what we want is to fetch the beans which has been created and kept in the container. In order to do so, first of all create a handle for the object, maybe call it as context, and in this case we will be using annotation config application context, and we are supposed to pass the configuration class that we have created. Please note that this class has this constructor and which does accept more than one configuration classes, but here in our use case we are just supplying one because that is what we have created. Now from the context handle we can call .getBin. So .getBin is an overloaded method which is going to accept different kind of signatures, but we will be using the one where we need to supply the class type. So let's call that and call getBin. We want the laptop bean, so just say laptop.class and assign this to handle, maybe call it as context laptop. Let's print it out. So laptop paste from context and context laptop.getBrand. Similarly, let's get the message that we had created. So context.getBean and string.class, and let's duplicate this, maybe call it as year, and since it was returning an integer, let's have this as the integer and probably print it out. So let's have it as message, and this is your message from year and year. So let's run it and let's see what's the outcome. So you see, first of all we printed this one and it is coming from our non-spring context. So basically this is the object that we have created in the usual way, normal way, and this is the reason that we are getting it. Then we are going to access the bean which has been created and stored in the bean container. So in order to do so, created the context first. So basically we got the handle for the bean container first, and after we have the handle for the bean container, we said that get me the bean which is of this particular return type, and it said alright. So basically you have the context laptop and you get the brand, and this is what you get, right? Likewise, we did the same in the case of this string and this year which is integer, and we are getting the same as the response here as well. So message is hello from year 2024. So to sum it up, here is what happened. First of all, your application starts, scanning is done for the configuration classes, beans are created and registered and kept in the container, and as the fourth step we fetch the bean from the container and make use of it. So this is how you create a bean in Spring using the @bean annotation. This video is part of a playlist on Spring Framework. Playlist is designed to progressively teach Spring concepts step by step. I have made sure the quality is super good. I do request you to visit the playlist. Link is in the description. Thanks for sticking with me till last. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. I hope this video added some value. If so, please hit that like button and share with your friends. Your honest feedback in the comments is valuable to me. I regularly post informative videos for software engineering and computer science. Don't forget to hit the bell for instant updates. Take care and stay awesome.